Yes, the show is Poet the Poet. The location is the International Books and Cafe. And before I forget, I want to thank Gerard Hammond for letting us come in and do whatever it is that we do here. And now we come to Adam Merton Cooper, who is one of those Philadelphia poets, not to be confused with a Philadelphia lawyer, but he writes song lyrics, he writes poetry. In keeping with the show's theme of elegance, you can't get much more elegant than Adam. Let's see, he went through the University of Wisconsin in Madison. That wasn't Oscar Madison by any chance?
No, it was just Wisconsin Madison.
Okay, cartography and computer sciences.
My sordid past.
Okay, I can't resist. Why don't you map out a poem for us?
All right, this is a villanelle that I wrote called "We're Letting Space Cadets and the Deluded Off the Hook."
Boy, we sure are.
The brain can't grasp its own gray machinations and asks, do pixies leap from cell to cell? So if someone seems deluded to you, patience. It's cruel that tourists' clueless peregrinations can tie up traffic worse than usual. But the brain can't fathom its own machinations, can't keep up with electrons' furtive motions, let alone maintain outstanding driving skill. So if someone seems deluded to you, patience. For you and I have succumbed to dire conniptions when once sure facts into oblivion fall. The brain can't fathom its own machinations, is barely fed on these days' scanty rations, cannot be expected everything to recall, so if someone seems spaced out to you, patience. Perhaps it is an act of bold defiance, for she may have a brain against her will. The brain can't grasp its own gray machinations, so if someone seems deluded to you, patience. And I should say that was published out in Michigan by a journal called Mobius.
Ah. Yeah. Yes, they would, as a matter of fact. They show a profound appreciation for so many of the open readings we have here in New York. Let's see. What were you doing in Edinburgh, Scotland?
In Edinburgh, I was running away from my life, and actually after college I managed to get a job in cartography making maps at a venerable old firm in Edinburgh, and it was conveniently at the time soon after the Gulf War, and amongst people my age there was a lot of hysteria about the draft and so on, so I was quite happy to get away.
Doesn't that take me back when I was a little kid, hiding under the bed from other wars. Let's see. And then you came to Manhattan in 1993, and the rest is hysteria.
The rest is, in fact, yes.
All right. Speaking of hysteria, how about another poem?
All right. This is called "Can the Moon Glow Without Weeping?"
Did I tell you?
Under other circumstances, trees along the avenue are beautiful, and so are you, and so am I, but we're both awake now, you and I. You are like a field oak, systemic and whole. Birdsong bounces off your boughs, and if you have a need, it is inexpressible. Wrapping around you from root to crown, if I'm such a snake, can a snake speak without spitting venom? Can the moon glow without weeping? The sun doesn't even shine without 10,000 explosions every second. You are a monolith. I stand with my back to your back, facing west, and swallow this nation's swords, and cannot encompass you, cannot. Despite the numbing air, I persevere outdoors and crane my neck despite the cramp. You are a comet, unfazed by the days I've pined for the path you paint across the sky. Wrapping round you from root to crown has caused my skin to split and my spine to splinter, but before I am broken I will carve a self-portrait out of the night to outstrip and outlast you.
Nice touch. Now, you claim you've been influenced by John Keats, Sylvia Plath, Dylan Thomas, Alice Munro, Vladimir Nabokov, and Swifty Lazar. And what is it about them? Or does each individual have their own little contribution?
For the poets, the three taught me mostly about formal considerations, about meter, and Sylvia Plath specifically taught me everything I know about villanelles. I learned a lot about imagery from John Keats. I learned a lot about the sound of the English language from Dylan Thomas, and I dabble in prose writing as well. So I try to learn from the other two, Alice Munro and Vladimir Nabokov, about how to write prose. And Nabokov claims that you need to study English poetry in order to learn how to write prose, which is how I got into writing poetry.
Ah, yes, drew a hedge backwards. I remember that. And you also have, I understand, a taste for foreign languages.
Yeah.
Have you yet dared to write a poem in a foreign language?
I have not yet. That's too chicken just yet.
Well, it does take a certain amount of pluck, yes. Moving right along. How about a poem that you were brave enough to write?
All right. Let's see. I'll read this longish thing called "The Toast-Eating Elks of Crosby Street." This is a myth I devised. Behind closed doors on Crosby Street lives a band of giant chameleons who cringe when faced with daylight's glance, but stray out to snack on cloud by night. Behind closed doors on Crosby Street in Soho are pale gray plants with dimpled leaves. Their roots lead all the way to Moho, where an exiled philosopher lives and breathes out CO2 for the plants to eat. No humans live behind closed doors on Crosby Street. You may have guessed. It's inhospitable at best, what with bewitched, unfriendly floors that vanish without warning, and bricks in the walls that radiate the most intense heat, so that the breakfast toast might be warm enough to please the elks who breakfast on it. Lest I forget, the elks, who number 2 or 3, are each the size of a cup of tea, and one hears tell that they have not yet passed a morning when they did not eat their buttered whole wheat toast in all the years they've lived on Crosby Street. But then, that's just what one hears tell. A person wishing to sneak inside will be by brick and lock denied. It's just as well, for you and I can easily silently sidle by the facade's spare tomb-like somber stone on full moon nights just like this one, and wonder who resides behind closed doors on Crosby Street, and put our ears to the iron doors and pretend to hear the sounds of shuffling feet or coughs or sneezes. But we'll never fix our eyes upon the toast-eating elks. And we cannot spot the chameleons, of course, although each night for years they have allowed themselves to stray out and snack on cloud, for they take on the colors of night sky and stars.
Oh, there's one. I never liked lizards anyway, but that's good. How we doing, Cam?
Good. I kept chameleons among my houseplants. Little ones.
And did the houseplants object?
They were cleaned up.
Do they change color, chameleons?
Yes, they do change color.
You should know. In Scotland, they turn plaid. Like Cam's dress there, but that ought to be a real challenge. Cam, if you were going to turn this into a haiku, what's the first thing you would do?
Well, I'll just choose a moment.
And go on from there. Speaking of going on from there, how about another poem, Adam?
Why not? Our lucky stars have fallen, crashed, and carved our graves out of the ground. Breathe into me. Oh, make a fire where fires were not, and singe each unsinged patch of skin. A heart is a diamond, a diamond, a diamond. Breathe into me. Ah, how your food has made me free. It has freed the dank breath from my lungs, drained the chill blood from my veins, loosed the shriek songs from my tongue. If I were a mink caught fast in a trap, if I were a shipwreck slipping under the sea, if I lay motionless, choked and unconscious, would you breathe, breathe into me?
Diamonds are a girl's best friend. A quick plug, we have this wonderful little magazine called Medicinal Purposes, which is great fun, and you should look it up sometime. And What else have you got in there?
I have got a poem that's kind of about Vladimir Nabokov, but not very obviously so. And it's called Translations.
But it's in English.
It is in English, in fact.
Okay.
My Russian being a little weak.
Okay, go ahead.
Translations.
Da.
Over the side of an earthen pot lean leaves weighed down by translations taped on. Instructions on yellowing documents for quietly crossing borders. Fatal condemnations. School administrative reports. Work orders. Piquant observations on cynicism, and so forth, translated carefully. Let me guide you. And I stride as I speak, stride over brambles, bodies, birch trunks, chipmunks, heavy-stepped, issuing instructions, I speak, delivering yellow documents, I read each word, I expand abbreviations, crack twigs underfoot, hold the cup to my lips and quote methodologies for catching fugitives, apologies, natal contemplations, clever observations on blood, did you get that, did you get that? I ford streams as I climb. I double back, retrace, transmit granite to the cup at your ear, tread mud, reed, clay, snake, send condolences, spell out the difficult words, explain nuances, let me guide you. I stride as I speak, communication not limited by 12 yards of line, cup to cup, 5 loaves, 2 fishes, and 12 yards of line.
Okay, we'll go out and have that translated a little after the show. Adam Merton Cooper, I want to thank you for coming on Poet to Poet, and also Cam Hollifield. And we're winding down now. Again, I want to thank Gerard Hamon for letting us come in and use International Books and Cafe. You should come in here because they have books of every language and other fun things too. And I'm going to slip in a little poem just to round things off. A Judgment Day dress rehearsal. Gabriel blows his silver trumpet, calling the faithful to their salvation, while the few who follow me instead claim to hear God's voice through my kazoo. Now, is that spiritual or what? Oh, I'm getting very nasty signals from the crew. So again, thanks to Adam and Cam for coming on Poet to Poet. And until next time, this is Robert Dunn, trying to remember what he normally says, but we'll be seeing you.